Welcome back to another episode of Excuse My Grandma. It's Kim and my co-host,
Grandma Gail.
So we are joined by Jared Freid. He's a New York City comedian, host of the Day Train podcast and You Up podcast for Betches. He also live streams The Bachelor and Bachelorette on Instagram, which is my favorite thing. I was just showing my grandma. It's funnier than the actual show. We love it.
Well, thank you very much.
The actual show is pathetic, so we have to hope it's funnier.
Yeah, it's about looking at it through a different lens. So it's trying to make it more fun. I've noticed like The Bachelor, Bachelorette. I didn't realize how seriously people took it until I started like making fun of it. It's like, you realize this is a 30 men dating one woman, right? Like,
so ridiculous, but they love it. Okay.
Yeah, we talked to Ben Higgins yesterday, and he was even like, "Yeah, I think the show's on its way out," which was interesting.
Ben said that?
Yes.
Wow,
Well,
and he's there.
He hoped it was not.
Yeah, of course. But he was like, without Chris Harrison, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
I thought he was too old for the show, no matter what. Like, I thought he had aged out of it, and that isn't to say that he couldn't have been on a different show, but like, his comments were tone deaf. But it's interesting to watch the Bachelor, Bachelorette audience get on a high horse about tone deafness when the show is completely tone deaf. So it's weird where people pick and choose where they get to be a good person. The show was on for 40 seasons, and it took 38 to get a black bachelor. So, like, you were watching the show while this happened, enjoying it, and then all of a sudden, you found the place to be conveniently angry at someone. So, but then Chris Harrison, when he started hosting the show, he was like the wingman. You know, and then slowly he gets older. The contestants stay the same age. You know, the Matthew McConaughey, like, I keep getting older, they stay the same age. And then it started getting weird. Like, I would even make jokes about it. I'd be like a dad coming down at a slumber party, be like, who wants cookies? You know, like, it just wasn't. And so when he goes on, you know, whatever that interview, he sounded like someone who was disconnected from the youth. And
it's all ridiculous. First of all, who believes this thing is really happening? 20 guys in a mud bath over this girl. It's just the dumbest thing I've ever seen. But all right, I think the youth have to figure out where they're going in this world. Stop watching The Bachelor and The Bachelorette.
Gail, I'm with you. I think it's a ridiculous show. I think the small moments is what people relate to. Like, on the big scale, totally agree. It is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. It's ridiculous. But then you have the moments where you're just two people talking. You're like, I've been on this date. Or when they end it with someone, you know, like a breakup. Like, you're watching a breakup. Like, what do you say? And it's like, you realize, like, you know, everyone says at the end of a relationship, they're like, I want closure. And then you watch these people try to give closure, and it's like this dumb monologue. You're like, yeah, no one has the answers. So it's kind of comforting, you know?
Well, so you also just went through a breakup. Did you take tips from The Bachelor and Bachelorette when doing that, or literally zero?
No, zero. The opposite. I sounded like one of them when trying to explain myself. The heart wants what the heart needs, you know, like just constant bullshit, just because I don't, you know, I don't have any answers, you know, like I do a podcast where I speak confidently and loudly and ridiculously. And I'm just, whenever I talk about dating stuff, it's commiseration. I'm not an expert. I'm going through this with the audience a lot of times, whether I've been in a relationship or out of a relationship or dating or single or anywhere in between. So I'm just trying to like relate to people. And the one thing I've realized, especially like, because we have a mainly female audience, is like, this is serious business to a lot of women that write in. And to me, and it's interesting. Like, I find it funny. Like, I find The Bachelor funny. So, and it's you have to realize, like, to some people, like the guy you're dating is closer to me than you want to believe. So if I'm having a fun time with these questions, like, you have to realize, like, a lot of the guys you're dating, like, might not be looking at things in the same serious kind of wormhole that you're looking through.
Mm-hmm. Or not thinking about it really at all. It's like in the back of their mind.
Men are thinking 10 minutes ahead of time. That's about
Men are different than women. It goes back to the old theme. Men are different than women. Give us
Gail,
a little background. Where you went to school, where you grew up. Give us a little bit of that, because it's interesting before we start asking the other dating questions.
The other stuff, I'm from outside of Boston, town called Needham. I grew up there. It's next to, Newton is the town people usually know. My dad and half my family's from Newton. So I'm from Needham, and then I went to Penn State, and I big school. I went for the millennial reason of like I went to Penn State for like the most millennial reason ever, which is like
Partying.
Yeah, the experience. I want the experience, which is like
Football.
football.
I was like, it's a big school, it's fun, like, not thinking of future at all. That's why I'm in a hotel in Nashville right now at 36. So I want to be in the Hamptons with you guys. So I went to college just like to have fun and like my parents didn't go to big schools. They like, they went kind of like, around Boston for a couple years, didn't really do that thing. So like they were like, yes, go, whatever. And then I got out of college with a degree in economics, whatever that means. Like that, I only did economics because you didn't need a 3.0 GPA to get into the business school with an economics degree. So I was like, I'll do that. That gets me a business degree, whatever. So I did. And then I was like, I want to move to New York for, again, a bad reason, which is like, young people go to New York and there's going to be women. So I was like, I got to find a job. And I started selling life insurance. And I was like, really, like, I wanted a job. Like, I really wanted to work and hustle. Like, I wanted to, like, I wanted, like, to end the day being like, oh, I closing deals type of shit. So I started doing that, and it just wasn't for me. And I was kind of just like, my family's advice was like, don't leave a job before you have your next job type of thing. I basically was like, the best part of my day, back when I was in, post-college, there were these group emails that would like, the group email would set up the weekend, and it'd be like 20 people from various parts of my life, Boston, Penn State, New York, whatever. And everyone would be like busting chops. Everyone would be making fun of each other. And if I made fun of like the group, I'd be spending my day writing these emails. And if someone like went off the email chain to be like, that was so funny, it was like a drug. Like it felt so good. And I was like, okay, how do I do that every day? How do I write emails making fun of my friends every day for work? And well, that was a start because I was so directionless. Like I knew I wanted to be creative. I knew I wanted to be entrepreneurial. My parents, my family's all like business people, like, but like not like, I split Jews into many groups. There's like, there's like Dr. Jew, and then there's like social worker Jew, and then there's like salesman Jew. Like my family's salesman Jews, like, right? So like they always sold. So I was like, I want to be salesman Jew. That's who I am, So I'm like looking for my place. What am I going to do? What am I good at? I just want to be passionate about something. I want to be sprinting, and I'm walking right now. And I was like, how do I sprint? And I was like, I want to be, I started looking at open mics around New York City to do stand-up. And I started being like, I just like writing these emails. And I was like, I don't know what this is, but I gotta create something. I feel like I'm just selling things that aren't mine and I don't feel ownership over. So I kind of pulled my parents aside. I was like, I'm going to do comedy. Like I want to be a comedian. And my dad was like, my dad kind of got it right away. He was like, oh, you want to be like one of the guys on 30 Rock, like one of the writers sitting around the table. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to knock on the door at 30 Rock. And I'd be like, I'd like to be a writer. They're going to hire me right away.
It's not going to happen that way. And then my mom didn't get it. I think Jewish moms generally just want the easy answer
Be a
for
doctor,
their friend.
lawyer, that's perfect.
Yeah, right,
Wall
Gail,
Street.
because Wall Street, because it's easy to explain, because I've kind of thought about it. It's like, my son's a doctor, end of conversation. Right. I did a good job as a mom.
Right.
It's all explained. Like
a podcaster doesn't come into that term.
No,
Thanks.
what a cast pod.
You don't fill the bill, the two of you.
No. No friend is just the conversation isn't done there. It's hard to explain. You ever had your mom explain what you do? It's like
well, you don't even know what a podcast is. You told someone we had an app the other day.
Gail, you're on one right now. FYI.
I know we're on it. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know how to tell somebody to get on the thing. I said, go to Apple, go to podcast, go to Spotify. I have no clue.
You're explaining my life, Gail. It's like listening to my mom. Now it's like it's turned into what it's turned into. I'm a comedian, and I do stand up, and everything is about doing stand-up for me. Like, I only want to do stand-up. I want to do theaters. I want to do Madison Square Garden. Like, that's like, dream upon dream. I want to go on, Fallon. I want those things to happen. But, stand up is the prize, as I was told. You get to do stand up if you do the other things. Like if people show up to see you do stand up, it's because of something else. And I've never had the privilege of being like booked on anything. Like I've never, no one's ever come up to me and been like, Jared, you got the thing, kid. Like, and I that makes me, frustrated.
Wait,
sometimes.
Jared, you got the thing, kid.
No, thank you. I got it. You got it. You're going to Hollywood.
So now that you kind of are established as a comedian and you get the label of like funny guy, I feel like I haven't heard this talked about that much of like what it's like to date the funny guy and like maybe the pressure you feel. Like I'm sure it's really annoying if someone's like, tell me a joke and stuff like
Sure.
that.
Well, I don't think I'm funny. I think
Told you.
right. Thank you, Gail.
I don't think on a date you're funny.
No,
That's not
no,
true.
No.
Oh,
You
You can
can
be funny on a date.
I think, I think good dating, good relationships are improv, are two-person improv, and it's not stand-up. Stand-up is a bad date. Like me performing for the other person, that's a horrible date. I need to shut up. I want to listen.
But I feel
The
like
best-
sometimes I go in with the same bit every time. I'm like, I know I'm going to make these 3 jokes.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like now you're like performing for that person. Like you want to perform together. Like you want to be Abbott and Costello, like you want to do, I think those are the most fun relationships are like, that's why like couples aren't funny, couples are like, you got to hear this story. And you're like, well, that's fucking stupid, and then, but to them, they're enjoying each other. Like that's improv. We're doing our own scenes. Like, so I think it's different because again, like a lot of people like, now I'm going back into the dating world and I'm reliving some of the things that annoy me and are tough. Like, the idea of like, tell me a joke. Oh, I thought you'd be funnier than this. And it's like, I'm not. I guess you thought wrong. Like I'm I have to chill out too. So, but I think like the idea of like funny gets, or it's a show don't tell thing. Like, like I when I go on stage, last night, like, there's people in the crowd that don't know me. There's people that do know me, which is very nice. But the ones that don't know me, they're like, what do you got?
prove
Prove it, right? And I can't say, well, I'm fun. I have to go and sing, dance, and dust. I got to put on the show. So I think in dating world, it's a lot like that. Like, what do you got?
So on a dating app or over text or whatever it is, when responding to like prompts or sliding into someone's DMs, is there like, now that you're back in the dating pool, a way that like a certain thing that you always like go with? Like what tips would you give to people for what to slide in with?
I don't know. I think like we're all narcissists. So like if you make it about someone's profile, because like, like your profile on whatever it is, whether it's Instagram or a dating app, is your art piece. You made that. So if you compliment that or answer to that, that's a good opener because it's specific to them. It's not just like copy and paste, right? So you want an answer that like is to the, like that speaks to the whole thing, So I Gail, what do you think of all this? Like I'm interested in your opinion.
Well, I think it's so sad because you guys never make a commitment. You're constantly looking for somebody else. And you're making dating too hard. It used to be you go out, you had a hamburger and you had a soda or a milkshake and you talked about what you were looking for in the future, what might have been funny yesterday. And both of you either said, yes, I love it, or no. And now it's so much emotional, so much Freud
Analyzing.
If I had to analyze my dates, I would have never gone on a second date in those days. But I'm talking about the 50s and the 60s when nobody analyzed because everybody was probably nuts anyway. So we never even thought about it.
Yeah. Well, there wasn't as much self-diagnosis then.
Definitely not. Now, for better or worse, we all realized we were crazy as we went on, but we went crazy together.
Sure.
Whereas I think now there's a lot of fear and commitment and getting into a relationship.
Well, also we've talked about like bebeing exclusive with someone. You're like, oh, so they're boyfriend, girlfriend. I'm like, no. That's like we have 5 more steps until we're boyfriend and girlfriend.
No,
It's also fear of failure, I think too. Like I think like listening to you talk about like going on a date and talk, like there was also not a bar. Like these dating apps are basically a bar. Like if you think of them like a bar full of single people who are saying you only get in if you're single. So while you're on that hamburger and shake date, you didn't have in your pocket a bar being like, hey, there's more people down here. You know, like
you had to make that date good.
Yeah, because there wasn't a lot. Might not get a next date. There might not be another person nearby.
Exactly correct. And you had to make a commitment. If you were 21 or 22, figure it out. Get
also
married.
People weren't having sex like before marriage as much. Like you were a virgin when you got married.
Yes,
now
tell everybody that.
You can tell Jared.
Part of this show.
I'm telling Jared that's part of
and you
the
also
show.
told all of our followers multiple times. So
That's probably true.
I talk about my mom's virginity once a week, so that's okay. Don't worry about it. It's fine.
So boring. we were so boring. It's beyond belief. But you know what? We were happy in our stupidity.
That's ignorance is bliss. And do you feel any, Gail? Do you feel any regret for that?
No, I don't think so. The only regret I ever had is that I got married very young, so I never really followed a career path. My career was my husband, eventually my children, which were close on to getting married. So I think that was the only regret. Maybe I should have waited 5 years, done a little something, and then proceeded on with a life.
Because I'm wondering what your fears were. I think like our fears kind of like are a lot of like our fears, I think like are different, like generationally, like fears are totally different. So like, I think we live, like if you look at there's a thing I think called the hope index. So it's like hope in this country is at an all-time low. So like people are having less babies now because they're less hopeful for the future. Like I think like it's interesting to me. I think like people ignore like the economy of this. Like 50s, 60s, we're heading into boom town.
It was post-war. It was post-war, and it was also it was the norm. It was the norm to get out, go to college, don't go to college, but whatever. In your 20s, you got married, you found somebody. Didn't mean that it was your only marriage, unfortunately. And it still doesn't mean it anymore. You can be around for a million years, find somebody, and then say, you know what, I made a mistake again. So I think it was just a matter of that's what your mother did, and that's what you do. So now it's a little different, and maybe. But
that's not to say the pressure hasn't gone away. Like you love that I'm pursuing a career, but then you're also like, in another year, like you'll get married, right?
Well,
like
you don't have a time clock. women do have time clocks.
Gail, that's a very controversial thing to say these days.
I don't care. I know.
Listen, I'm with you. The clocks are different.
The clocks are different, and the clocks are different for men too, because you know what? You have no patience when you're 40 to raise a family. It becomes much more difficult as you get older to have patience.
Wait, why?
Because you're into your career, basically. You're really into your career, and you don't feel like sitting on the floor and pushing around a toy truck. so you allocate it.
It's harder to like stand back up.
It's not harder yet when you're in your 40s, but you might not want to do it.
Yeah.
Gail, you're making me afraid. I'm 36. I'm just out of a relationship.
Get on the stick. You gotta
hurry up.
You gotta find somebody, but somebody nice.
That's the thing. That's
the issue. Somebody has to be on your page.
I know. And like, I think our generation too has dealt with watching like families that had to deal with divorce. And like, we're the first generation that watched, a divorce be okay. And then you watch that and you go, well, I don't want to deal with that. And that's not to besmirch someone whose family dealt with divorce. You dealt with what you had to deal with. Everyone has different things. But like, I look at that. My parents are still together, and like I watch them, and that's like what I want. Like I want to have their future. But then you start thinking, you're like, wow, that seems like such a mountain to climb. Like
Jared, there's no guarantees in life.
I know. Well, thank you for making me more afraid, Gail.
No guarantees. All you have to do is hope, like you're saying. You got to hope that you found the right person and make it work. That's it.
Just jump off the cliff, I guess, right?
Do you get a lot of pressure from your parents to settle down?
No, my parents, they're like, I'm very close with my family, as most people say. Like, I think everyone's close with their family in some way or another. But, we're like, my brother's 4 years younger than me. And we used to joke around. We'd go on vacation. I'd be like 30. My brother'd be like 26. And we're like, same 4, just hanging. Like,
still us.
Still us. And now, so we generally have a good time together. And like, my family, like, we're like, we sit, we have a drink, we hang out, we bust each other's chops. It's very friendly. And that's kind of how my dad and his Mom was like, they were my dad and his mom and my dad's mom and my mom were very close. So like we all traveled together, and like we
that
have
was
this
good
like
family relationships. That's
yeah. And it's like, so it's like, that's another thing. You're bringing someone into like a very closed off group. And it's like, you know, is the dynamic, like the dynamic of that is important to me as well. So that's like, you know, I'm not just dating someone, I'm dating someone for a crew, you know, and that's not the right, I don't think that's right of me, but that's just what it is.
You're not like the Kardashian Jenners, like we can calm down a little bit.
Yeah,
I
sure.
think someone can fit in there.
I think someone can, I know someone can, but I'm saying it's just like, I want that. That's what makes me feel good. You know, I don't want to be the person that's like, oh yeah, my brother's going off with my parents and his wife. And I'm just like, have fun. I'm going to do our own thing. You know, I don't want that.
Yeah. Do they have a specific like type in mind for you? And do you have a type that like you want for yourself? Like nice Jewish girl or like any?
My mom's all Jew all the way. She waves that flag all the time. She like can't get off it. It's important to my mom. My dad doesn't care. You know, my dad's like whatever. Yeah. For me, I tend to feel that I have more in common with the Jewish girl, just as far as like there's less to explain. I do a joke on stage about just like how dating a Catholic girl, like you become the expert on all things Jewish, which is like, I don't want to be that guy. I don't even know what the fuck I'm talking about. You know? So like, how would I, and then you have to like make stuff up, you know? Like, I talk about that on stage. I just I remember I had a friend, like I went to summer camp. I had that childhood. And
where'd you go to camp?
Cedar in Maine.
That was my son went to Tacahoe.
Okay.
Cedar, he used to play tennis against Cedar and beat them.
Well, you heard a different story than I know. Tacahoe, Cedar, Wildwood, those are the main camps. And I'm, you know, a lot of Boston people went, you know, Boston Jews went there. My dad went to Cedar. My brother went there. So you know, I don't want to have to explain that relationship.
Right. Kimberly has to deal with you because you went to Trip Lake.
Oh, you went to Trip Lake? Okay, so you know the whole deal.
Yeah,
so
I left when I was 13.
Bounty.
No, I actually did. I wasn't allowed to go to. That was like a social, right?
Yeah. That was when all the camps went to one.
We didn't. Well, I think my camp might have, but I think like they would do a shirt test on us. So like you would have to raise your hands up, and if your shirt went above your belly button, like you're out. You're not allowed to go. And every time I didn't do it on purpose. Every time they're like, "Nope, your shirt went above," and I was like, I'm not even raising my hands. I think no one wants me to go. But
Kim, this is how could you say this in front of Gail?
I've said much worse.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Gail's virgin ears are burning with your shirt test.
So I wanted to get your opinion on some of the stuff we talk about on our podcast, like about different dating topics.
Okay.
One thing we talk about is the reach and the look away. So like on a date, when the check comes out and it's time to pay, a lot of girls will do like the reach for their bag, like, oh, can I split it with you? And then like with no intention of actually paying for anything.
Sure.
Versus some people write in and say they do the look away, which is like the check comes and they like don't even acknowledge it, like look around the room, pretend it doesn't exist. Is one of those better than the other? And two, like, what do you recommend to people to do with like paying?
So it's different for everyone. I would start at, don't go on a date you can't afford. So never go on a date where you're stuck. Like, why would you want to be in debt to someone? Or, you know, and I think there's power. You have to, I believe in owning, like, you want to have ownership of a date. So like, I think like if you go on a date you can't afford, you're already losing. So like, why would you? So I always say, plan on paying the date. Plan on paying it. Okay. But you know, your taste is your own. So some people, they're like, I want to split the first date. I'm never going to tell someone how to feel. There are other people that are like, I want to pay for the first date. There's other people that are like, I want a guy to pay for the first date, which I totally understand.
Should the girl always offer regardless?
I think it's okay to offer, but it's okay to not offer. But like, it's also okay to never go out with a guy who asked you to split it.
Right.
If a guy, you know, so I think that has to be acknowledged. Like, you're not a bad person for walking away from a first date going, it was good, but then he had me split it and I didn't like that. And that being the reason you don't go on the next date. Because a lot of this gets into like this whole discussion gets into like whether you're snooty or not, or too choosy. It's like, no. You're allowed to feel however you feel. If I go on a first date, the way I would do it, I can only speak from my perspective. It'd be like, I asked you, so of course I'm taking you out. Like, I got it, please. And if they offer, like, I don't think anything of that. I think some people might, but like if someone's like, no, let's split it, I'll go, no, I asked you, it's fine, please. It's a pleasure.
Okay, next thing we have the Tylenol rule, which was based on a story that I had told in one of the early episodes when I was living with my grandma in Palm Beach, and there was a guy who lived in our building, and I kept bringing him Tylenol because like he wasn't feeling well, and he like we were like kind of seeing each other, and he would text me and be like, I don't have any Tylenol, and in a second I would be there to like drop some off, and my grandma was like, you're a simp, like please stop like running out.
Gail, you were like, it's too much.
It's too much. Let him bring the Tylenol to you occasionally.
Right. So
yeah, why not?
That was the rule, that like if I'm giving 100%, then like he should be bringing Tylenol back to me, like giving 100% back, and it wasn't that way. So the rule is basically like give 100, get 100.
Sure.
What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's good. I think like, I don't believe in keeping score. Like, I think that's going to like set you up for like failure. You're going to be losing every time. But like, I do think it's okay to be like, hey, I'm not real. You can look back at things and go, what the fuck? I've been doing, now that I think about it, I'm doing everything. I'm making all the plans. I'm the one, like, it feels like I'm dragging someone into dating me. And I've been that guy. I've been the guy who's been dragged. I've been the guy who's had to drag someone. I've been on both sides of that equation. And
does it ever work?
No, I don't think it works. I think, sometimes you get attached to the idea of someone as opposed to the reality of someone. And a lot of people check a lot of boxes, but they're not really there. It doesn't matter. Yeah.
So it's not there for you.
Yeah. So what would you want? And also, relationships aren't even. They're not 50-50. And some people have to compromise.
No, I think the man has to love you more than you love the man. I'm very big on that. Because men don't really understand relationships as much as women. They think much differently, right?
I agree with you, Gail, because I think here's the thing. The conversation that we're talking about gets misconstrued, I think, a lot of times. I think guys like to chase, but they like to chase a standard. They're not going to chase you. So like the idea of like, I won't text him back because I want to show him he's got to chase. No. There's too many options. I can go find a new girl that will text me back right away. But if you go on a great date and then the guy texts you a week later, hey, I'm out right now, let's hang out. And you say to him, yeah, I'm not going to do like that type of hangout. I'd like to go on a date. That's a different thing. Guys like to win the video game. We like to play video games. We like to win the level. We're fixers. We're competitors. So if you have to be a mountain to be climbed, and it's like, look at you want to show off. Look at I climbed that mountain, and that's I think like sometimes it gets, a lot of times people do that in the wrong way. Like you can say what you want, and it doesn't have to be a big deal. Like I want to go on dates with you. I want to get to know you, and if the guy's trying to get to know you in a way you don't feel good about.
Don't go out with him anymore.
See, like she would say, don't go out with him, but I would be like, you can change his mind. I know it sounds stupid.
He's telling you the same thing. You do not change anybody's mind.
But what if they're like on the seat, like teetering?
I think he changed your mind.
Exactly right.
Like,
he's basically saying, like a lot of times what happens is you'll go on a great first date with a guy, and you'll be like, and then you may make out on a street corner, and then he's like, we should go out again, and you're like, great. And now you're in this like weird text situation. You're just texting. And then you're like, what's your plan this week? And he's like, oh, I'm so busy, but I'm going to be out on Saturday night.
Vicky knows your dates.
I know your dates. And I'm going to be out on Saturday night is like something he would say. And then we should meet up. We should meet up.
What does that mean?
Thank you, Gail. It means, well, Gail, not to be crude, but it means let's hang out and get naked together later. Yeah.
Let's get naked together without me buying you dinner is really what it is. Let's get naked together without this counting as a second date. So he's basically giving you a contract offer for casual. And if you meet up with him, you're kind of agreeing to the casual contract. And that's not to say you can't go to the serious contract, but if you keep agreeing to casual contracts, he's going to go, I don't have to offer, I don't have to negotiate.
I don't have to make a commitment.
Yeah. So, and it's like, listen, we all can have casual. The casual's fun like that, but I'm just saying, like, but if what you want is serious and you keep settling for casual, I don't think he's going to, you're not changing his mind because, you know, why would he change his mind? He's getting everything he wants.
Yeah, I think that's really smart. It just seems like 99.9% of guys are in this camp today of like casual.
Well, I would say also 99% of women are on a team of not wanting to get their feelings hurt.
Right.
So it's easier to not get your feelings hurt and agree to casual than to say, hey, and it's okay to be positive. Like I think the most respectful thing in the world is to go, listen, that sounds like a ton of fun, but I already have plans for tonight. I'd love to get dinner this week, but just let me know when and where. Sometimes people go so negative because they take it personally. Like he's not doing it to you because he sees you as this floozy.
You know, he's not like
right. He didn't go on a date with you and be like, she's one of those casual women. Like that's not how he's thinking. Again, men think 10 minutes ahead of time. He's just thinking everyone could be casual. It's not about you, and I think a lot of people take it personally. And it's like, I think if you say like, hey, I think you're a great guy, you're just doing what dogs do. And, you know, dog's going to eat, dog's going to bark, dog's going to say, hey, you out. So.
Well, do you remember what you up means? That's the name of Jared's podcast.
No.
When someone texts you up at like midnight?
No, I don't remember.
So a you up text, Gail, is when like a guy's out or a woman, anyone can say, and basically they're out, they're a little drunk, and they send someone a text that says you up, basically insinuating like, let's meet up now and have sex.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I get it.
Gail just got so disappointed in society.
So sad.
That's so funny.
You give the best advice ever, which is why I listen to everything that you do. And now I'm so happy we get to talk because I get to like personal. I've definitely written in questions.
I hope Gail thinks so too. I just try to, you know what? When I talk about these things, I sound bad, and I do understand a lot of these subjects are icky, like, and they're easier for me to say.
I think you're giving a very good male perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate
and that's
that.
very important because I think without that, it can't only be the woman's side. It's definitely, that's your side, and it's good. And it's good for the people to listen to it.
And a lot of men don't like talking about these things.
Well,
and
men can't talk about it. Most men can't.
They can't, and that's kind of my job. Is like a lot of men come to my shows and I'll talk about dating stuff, and they're just like, yeah, you know, like I'm trying to voice the male opinion in an edible way because it is gross. Like it's like, you know, a lot of it has to do with sex. It has to do with, you know, societal, like a lot of the society things. Like women get like this societal pressure, but they get the excuse of having societal
There's
pressure.
both societal pressure, like on both sides.
That's what I'm saying. Men don't get that excuse a lot of times where it's like, oh, you have to be a provider. You have to have, you know, like, you know, I bring up money a lot in this situation because men have that pressure. Like, listen, I have a friend, she was single and she was like Forbes 30 under 30. And she's like, I only get asked about who am I dating? And it's like, you know how annoying that is? She's like, and she's crushing it in her career, but that's the reality of society. I, as a man, only get asked about my job. So there's another problem with that. Like to say, like you might wish for the other side of it, but with that comes the pressure of like, I better be successful or the person I'm with will not look highly of me. I won't be able to like give them nice things or provide nice things. Like, and I want to do that. Like, you know, like you want to be able to be in a position where you're not the loser of some sort of group. And that doesn't, you know, that's more on your own demons. And that's why you're going to get a lot of times, I'm so busy with work. It's not I'm busy with work. I am worried that I will not be successful enough to be able to have a woman like you in the future.
That's a good way to put it.
Jared, you're terrific.
Thank you
so
so
much.
much success in your comedic career.
Thank you so much.
Okay, guys, that was another great episode of Excuse My Grandma. Please check out our website, excusemygrandma.com. Follow us on Instagram at excusemygrandma and on TikTok. And we will see you next week.
Bye.